Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in to Team Forbidden's YouTube page again. It is Andrew the Collector here, and this is part 2 of this video trilogy of the top 5 decks. And in this video, we are going to be talking about the top 5 rogue decks of the new format post the ban list and Photon Hypernova. What exactly would you consider to be a rogue deck? Well, people like to do Tier 1, Tier 0, Tier 1, Tier 2, and then Rogue, and then everything else. So Rogue is basically in a category to where not a lot of people are using it in comparison to some of the other top meta decks. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into number 5. This one was actually brought to the attention of Brian the Darkness. It is Exosister. It's like I said in my last video, any deck that can main Dimensional Shifter definitely deserves a spot in the top 5 lists of any kind. It definitely holds a spot in this format because it's just a resilient deck. That's all I can really say about it. Because the boards that they end on, along with D-Shifter, they're pretty formidable. And not only that, they can also run Necro Valley in it too, which can also shut down a whole lot of other decks too. Plus, they can also main a lot of main several different hand traps. It's almost a one-card engine with their new card that they got a few sets ago. Definitely do not sleep on this deck and keep it in mind. And like I said before in the last video, keep those dimensional barriers in your side deck. And number 4, this one is kind of out of my foreknowledge because I haven't really played against it and I haven't tested against it, but this is one that Eric, the Cyborg, recommended. It's Libromancer Mankanko. I did play against it once, and it was a pretty formidable deck as far as I was concerned, because the way that the Mankankos work is they're a battle strategy where they will inflict the damage that's inflicted to your opponent through the battle damage. Like any damage that you take is inflicted to your opponent instead. But the Libromancer engine is what gives them their real power for extensions to get out, their Borreload Savage, their trap card that's basically Snatch Steel, and Baron de Fleur. So yeah, definitely keep an eye on this deck because it is definitely a good one. Number 3, this one is going to be a little wonky, but it's going to be Dragon Link. I mean, Dragon Link, they already have access to all the Bysteals, for one thing, but now they got 3 Destrudo back, which in and of itself is a big deal for a lot of decks, actually. But Destrudo definitely helps the deck out. A lot of people are going to be maining Nibiru a lot more this format because of Kashtira, and Nibiru is basically a big answer to Dragon Link as well. So keeping that in mind, it's like Kashtira, it does have its weaknesses, but it is definitely still a formidable deck, and in some cases it can actually work to be a little bit of a budget deck too, depending on what form you go with. Now number 2, Labyrinth, aka Eldritch 2.0. They just got a new card in Photon Hypernova, a new trap card, and it is pretty bonkers. This deck is able to set up a lot of formidable boards. They have access to hand traps. A lot of their normal spells they can main, like Dimensional Barrier, Compulse, and the rest of their normal trap cards. Phoenix Wing Wind Blast is actually moving up there to being one of their main deck contenders. So, yeah, definitely keep an eye on this one too. And depending on what form you go with, it can be pretty user-friendly if you are looking in for a deck to start out with. But it can be a little pricey with some of their trap cards and their main deck monsters. So I would highly go along with caution. They can also main deck Lava Golem, which is a big deal too. So yeah, definitely keep that in mind. And number 1, probably the best rogue deck out of this, and probably going to be the number 6 spot in the meta decks category, is Scareclaw. My gosh, talk about rise out of the rough. This deck started out as a very gimmicky style-ish deck, but over time people kind of grew more aware of the deck's potential. Not only did it get new support in Photon Hypernova, but it also works with the Kashtira cards big time. And Triheart, that along with a Baguska, it's a pretty good lockout. As long as you're you know, you have the protection with it, and your opponent doesn't have any kaijus or lava golems. That's pretty much one of the best outs to it. Other than that, they're going to have a real hard time. And as of now, the deck is actually pretty budget friendly. Not enough to be in the top 5 budget decks, because Tryhard can be a little bit pricey, obviously, along with the Kashira cards if you want to run that. But if you're going pure Scareclaw, it's definitely more of the budget friendly. You can definitely make it with the deck under $100. But yeah, that is it for the top 5 rogue decks of this new format. Stay tuned for our last video coming out pretty soon of the top 5 budget decks, and we will catch you guys next time.